During a high school class project, my teacher told me it's unrealistic being a CEO. It's been my dream to be a CEO since I was 10. So I told her, it is realistic. Follow me on my journey to learn what it takes to become a CEO. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Realistic CEO podcast. Today I'm here with Victor Woolridge. How you doing today, Victor?
I'm doing well. You?
I'm great. Thank you for coming on today. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come on. So I appreciate that.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you. For the first question that I want to ask you is, can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Right now, what I do is I sit on a few boards, corporate boards, and both for-profit and nonprofit boards, and essentially try to provide my insights and expertise to move those organizations and institutions along. It's a simple way of trying to describe a lot of work.
Can you tell us a little bit about your journey, how you got to where you are today?
I think it really has to start with a dream, in a sense. How do you envision your life's being? And then making a firm commitment in your mind and in your heart, that's what you want to do. You want to pursue whatever that thing is. And then you have to do it with great determination and zeal that this is important. Don't let anybody deter you from the path that you want to pursue. There's going to be lots of people who will do that. You shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, those kinds of things. So that's really the beginning of it all. And then from there, at that point forward, it's all about focusing and learning whatever it is that you're interested in doing, being the best at what you do. I like to refer to Dr. King's speech about street sweepers. And if you haven't heard it or seen it, you can look it up online, maybe 13 minutes long, but he's making a speech to high school students. And he's essentially saying, if you're the street sweeper, be the best street sweeper there ever was, so that the angels in heaven would look down and say, now that is a great street sweeper. And you apply that mindset to everything that you do. You want to be the best at it.
You sit on a couple boards for different businesses. You said board and nonprofits. So how do you get into that industry? Like, how did that opportunity come about for you?
The real early seed was right after college. I come out and I have two things in mind. One is to pursue a career, and the other one is to give back to my community. So I got involved with small nonprofits that were serving the community, and they would do things like provide food to people who had food insecurity, things of that nature. You join your urban league or ACP, and you get all this sort of really grassroots level experience. And then you continue to build on that by going to larger and larger organizations. I ended up being the chairperson of the Springfield Chamber of Commerce. And through the Chamber of Commerce, you network, you expand the group of people that you are having affiliations with and knowledge of and friendships with. And through all of those different relationships, people obviously will recognize you, acknowledge the skill set that you have, and they'll continue to invite you to join bigger and bigger things. And you always have to be willing to learn, apply yourself, be disciplined, be patient, and be focused on what is in the best interest of this organization that I'm supporting. Do whatever is in their best interest. So it just grows over time. And then eventually you have to decide, as I did, okay, I want to do something much bigger. I want to get onto some corporate boards, and that takes a lot of effort and a lot of patience and a lot of faith in yourself. And eventually you get there too.
So is this like your main source of income? So you're able to get paid by when you're on these boards? Are you like getting paid for like your advice, or how does that work?
Most nonprofits do not pay you. So let's get that clear. You're contributing back to something that you believe in. It's in your community. It's a food bank. I was board chair for the UMass system. It's a big organization, big complex organization. So you take it on for the challenge, for the knowledge, for the experience, for the relationships, for all kinds of reasons. And as you do that, you learn how complex organizations run. and how to manage groups of people who literally have no reason to follow you other than how you treat them and how you manage the process, and always manage it towards goals and objectives that are in the best interest of that organization or the community. On the corporate side, yes, they do pay. And as my sort of post retirement plan, which was always my post retirement plan, was to take what the knowledge I learned on my job, which was in the investment business, and leverage that in a sense so that I could contribute to for-profit businesses. I'd learned how to do it on a nonprofit basis, and nonprofits aren't nonprofit. They are for-profit. It's a tax status in large measure, but they're all operating in a way to be continuous going concerns. That's how I managed to go from my full-time job into a corporate role that does pay.
You said your job, you were in investing, or what exactly were you doing?
I was for many years with a large company, with Bearings. It's a subsidiary effectively of Mass Mutual. And we did structured real estate. That was the area in which I was. That was essentially buying, selling, building, managing institutional grade real estate and selling it off to investors and managing that process. That sort of institutional level knowledge of how to do that business, to make those investments and structure them and everything else, is translatable to any large business because they have investment portfolios and they are also themselves a business that needs to navigate the financial world. So you try to take that knowledge and translate it into the next business. Same way I did with the Chamber of Commerce. It's a city, but it has financial issues, and you translate your knowledge about business and finance to the city for its betterment. I want to make sure I answered your question, though.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. So you talked about how you worked on boards on for-profit and nonprofit.
Yes.
What are the similarities and differences that you see in both business styles?
It's a pretty interesting question. Nonprofits have a different top line revenue source. They are funded either by state organizations or foundations. They're not necessarily selling something per se, except maybe a hospital or a university is selling, in a sense, education, and they're attracting students to the campus. And in exchange, obviously, for this bargain, you want to provide them the absolute best education at the lowest possible cost and give them the best amenities. So it's a hard balance. It's a very difficult balance. And they are designated nonprofit in accordance with the code because they are not making profit for themselves. They're doing it so they reinvest back into the business that is in the best interest of their community, their state, or their country. For-profits have a different driver. They are definitely selling you something, whether it's Coca-Cola or investment products. They're selling you something. And they're trying to price that in a way that it's an attractive bargain for you from a price. Yeah. And they're also looking to grow and own a larger market share of the business. So it's different in that respect that the product you're selling is intended to continue to grow and expand your business, and you have investors. And those investors are really your most important constituency because they are putting money into your business with the expectation that it's going to be successful, that you're going to grow it, and you're going to return to them not only the money they gave you, but a return on that investment. And the better you can do that, the more you can attract more investors to that business. And obviously a good business is going to be well diversified, having lots of different products and services that it's offering to the marketplace. That, again, very high level, broad strokes, that's what businesses are trying to do. And in our role as independent directors is to essentially make sure that they're being compliant with all the rules, regulations, federal regulations, state and so forth, or that we are hiring the right CEOs, holding them accountable, moving the strategy forward to satisfy the constituency, whether it's students or a city or investors.
Throughout every board, the biggest differences and similarities that you've seen from like most successful businesses that you've been a part of versus the ones that you're like, you need more help. And how are you able to help grow the businesses that you saw as a way that were struggling?
You can get into this as a for-profit business or nonprofit. They all can run into problems, and some of it's regulatory changes in regulation, changes in funding sources. Maybe the business isn't fulfilling its mission and its objective for the funders to be satisfied that this is the best return on their investment. So if a foundation makes an investment in a community nonprofit to help young people learn, and you don't see young people learning, then they're looking at that saying, this is not a good investment. I'm giving the money away, but the return I want is to see people be educated, become contributing members of society. This organization isn't doing it. So either that board needs to take action and change around how they're approaching that strategy, or we're going to withdraw our money. The same thing on the for-profit side is that it's pretty straightforward. You need to be successful. You have to have a successful platform. You have to have high quality people managing, running the business, working for the business. There needs to be quarter over quarter, year over year growth. And based on that and the stability of the business and the growth trajectory of that business, people will continue to support that business. And you have to have high integrity, whether it's nonprofit or for-profit, doesn't matter. You have to have high integrity. This is all about trust. And people will withdraw that trust, meaning their capital from you, if you show yourself to be untrustworthy.
So for you, when you're looking to get on to boards of a nonprofit versus a for-profit business, what are you looking for in the business? But yeah, this is the type of business I want to be a part of.
A business is a business, whether it's for-profit or nonprofit. And there are certain elements of those businesses that are the same. You have a chief financial officer, you have a CEO or a president, you have all this infrastructure, computers and all that stuff. And then you have to hire people who are properly trained to carry out whatever that task is. And then people who can effectively manage them up to their maximum potential. I wouldn't say it's necessarily about what kind of business do I want to get into. It's what kind of business is this that I'm involved in, and how do I make it successful? And if I can move from business type A to business type B to C and make them all successful, then that's good. It's good for them and it's good for me because I'm learning a diversified business base, almost different parts of the economy. Nonprofits, again, tend to struggle more because they are not able to keep and hold on to a lot of excess capital. It has to really get reinvested into that business. And because of that and how some of them are funded, some of the funding is for direct services, not for infrastructure like buildings and stuff like that. Folks don't like their money going into buildings. They want their money going directly into a service. It makes it more complicated. And then you have the side of how much money can you borrow from a bank or some financial institution to support the business. And it's a little bit more difficult depending on the size and type of nonprofit than it is for a operating business that is in the marketplace. You have all these different things, but you can certainly focus on, I want to be in this type of business, but the fundamentals of how a business operates are pretty much the same. And you can learn that. Then you can learn how to run your business.
We're looking at these businesses and you're joining these boards. What are some of the common things that you see in the businesses that are successful?
Really highly skilled, competent, knowledgeable people. That's what I see, who know that business inside and out, and they know their competition. They know the capital sources and how it works, and they can be creative enough to see, as they used to say, or still do, where the puck is going, not where the puck is. Seeing where you are is easy. Seeing where the puck is going to go is another thing. So having that kind of vision about it, and also having a broader, clear vision of what it is that you want to do with this business. How do you want to grow it? What space do you want to be in? What spaces do you not want to be in? What do your people and what do you know specifically as sort of investment criteria? We're good at this. Know what you're good at. Know what you're not good at. And do what you know and do what you're good at.
On the flip side, what were some of the weaknesses that you see on these successful businesses as well?
It's a leadership issue all the time. So what in the successful business is highly skilled, talented people who know exactly what they're doing. They're usually at the top of their game and in their business. And then which in some of these other businesses that are not that is they're just not as smart as they think they are. And they're not willing to acknowledge the weaknesses and go and fix them in themselves and in their business. And that becomes a real challenge when they won't listen, they won't learn, they won't change, and it undermines the business. Leadership is everything. It's everything. And we can look around our own community and we see really successful organizations and we can see those that aren't. And they just muddle along and people just continue to support them, but they're not successful. So it's obvious.
That's what I'm seeing in like the world right now with Trump now in office and like the DEI, all that stuff being taken away. And you're seeing like people like staying away from some of these big corporations. What are you noticing inside this economy that might change or might improve?
Look, first of all, my big thing is understanding what's going on. And what I think people understand, to your comment about some people staying away from these businesses, is that they probably don't really know the details. They know the superficial. Somebody's not pursuing DEI for whatever the definition is and how it's done, and therefore we should not go to support that business. Oftentimes when you dig below that thin veneer, there's a lot more complexity, number one, and you might find out that what you thought was true is not true. So that's sort of baseline. Don't be so quick to react to what you're hearing out there. We have to be patient and find out what the facts are before we make a move that then we will regret later. Number one, it's traumatic to a lot of folks who clearly don't support what's going on. But the other thing that I certainly learned is not everything we see is bad and not everything we see is good. And being able to discern through this political haze of what's happening, what is good and what is bad, can be challenging. It can challenge our own inner beliefs and our emotional attachment to something. So just to use one example, all of this, the firing of people at the federal level, right? It's traumatic, not obviously to the people who are being fired. It's traumatic to society in general because there's always uncertainty going on. But would anybody say that government isn't bloated? Would anybody say that? Probably not. Government is bloated. Government is an enormous bureaucracy. Things get caught up and gummed up in its works. And does it need an intense focus on efficiency and effectiveness? Yes, it does. Could it probably do what it's doing with fewer people? Very likely could be done. The issue here is the way it's being done. That just doesn't make any sense. You cannot come into a business and by the third day, fire half the staff and say that you've improved the business because you don't even know what they do. And so it's not being opposed to efficiency and effectiveness of taxpayer dollars, which is really important, and delivery of services to citizens who really need them. It's really a question of what is it that they do? How do they do it? How can we make it better? And then as part of that process, we could reduce staff maybe by a third, who knows, and still deliver on everything that citizens expect. So there's good and bad. That's my point. And it's not all bad and all good. It's a little bit of both.
When you were first starting off in your career, when you, like you said, you started off in the investing side of things, moved on to where you are now, was this always your path or did it go into your hands?
Oh, no, it didn't fall into my hands. It was always my path. Originally, I wanted to be a real estate developer. Then I was a real estate attorney. And then I was actually pursuing going to law school. And then I realized, gee whiz, there's way too many lawyers out there. And so I switched back to business, but always wanted to be in real estate. And so that was the path that I followed for 42 years of my career. And I don't regret it one bit. In fact, many lawyers that I worked with no longer wanted to be lawyers. They wanted to be on the business side. So I knew that was confirmation for me that I knew I had the right path. So yeah, people have certain talents that are innate to them. They can do certain things well. It's whether or not you had the courage and conviction to pursue that thing. I used to tell my kids at dinner, because we would always sit down for dinner, which I thought was important, and just say, look, pursue the thing you dream about at night, because that is the thing that you really want to do, but you're almost embarrassed to talk about it. I want to be an actor. Okay. Yeah, but you're embarrassed to talk about it. Don't pursue a corporate job because your parents are doing that. Pursue what you want to do because that's your passion. And I think that's the most important thing. And people tend to have a sense of it pretty early in life, I think. My grandson, who's going to be coming to visit me today, very early in life, I'm talking like 4 or 5 years old, it was pretty clear that he had this acuity for engineering, and that's what he wants to do. So we, the older folks, have to encourage the younger folks to do that, to pursue what's in their heart and on their minds.
For you, I really like what you're doing with like how you're able to break down how these businesses and all that stuff, because like I said, I'm like 10 months into my business. So to be able to break down, to learn what you're saying and how I can improve my own business. How have you noticed like the successful businesses when it comes to sales? Like how are they great at sales?
How are they good at sales?
Yeah.
Again, you probably hear me say this a lot. It's really knowing what the business is that they have. And if you're really good at something, you're good at it because you're passionate about it, right? If you're not passionate about it, then you're not good at it. They just say that right off. Go find something else to do, because your passion is what's driving everything. And it's that commitment. Whether, if you ever watch like a football documentary about teams, it's all about passion and commitment, right? Same thing is true with everything else in life. It's about that. And so a good salesperson knows their product, knows it well, listens to their counterparty that they're trying to sell to understand what's important to that person. The sale that you're trying to make is not about you. It's about the other person. So what is it that they need to get solved and fixed? How can I help them? And if I can show them how what I have helps them, then they're inclined to take it. That's the sort of art of negotiation and sitting down and expanding your business. This is a good thing for you. And I'm not one who thinks you go around talking down your competition. Because if you have to talk down your competition, what you're really saying is your product isn't as good. So you figure out what they do really well and make yours better. That's the challenge. And then you can sell that. But if you come in there thinking, gee whiz, I have to undermine my competition because mine isn't as good, but I want to sell it anyway, then it's really not about the client. It's all about the sale.
What did you notice for people that have weaker sales as well? And you broke it down how they aren't really there to try to promote their product. They're there to try to say why the other product isn't good.
You have that. And sometimes the business structure is just gotten expensive. So the way that the business was formed, it was really successful for a while. And then somebody came along and built a better mousetrap, basically, right? And they did it cheaper. And because they were able to do it cheaper, the market now turns to them and says, I want to do that. I want to go with. Now, the construct of the first business has an expensive base. And what they need to do is they need to not say, hey, but we're still great over here. We were here all along. That's not the argument. The argument is, how do you make it cheaper, better, faster, like the competition that came in behind you? That's the trick. And knowing that's going to happen. So when businesses really start doing really well, they are on the top of the world. They forget that they're not always going to be on top of the world. They don't look around the competition. It's like the up and coming boxer, right? The boxing champions don't stay champions very long because the hunger that drove them to get there is going to catch up to them in another person. And when they see that, okay, we'll fight, we'll defend. But after a while, they just don't have the passion anymore. And it goes away. Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. Another thing, like, how do like these successful businesses that are like making $1 billion a year and all outwards end up going down to becoming bankrupt? How does that happen?
It's usually, it could be a number of things, right? It could be malfeasance in all of its forms, right? That they're doing something wrong. If you're an automaker, you pass through a part that you knew wasn't made properly and it starts to cause accidents, right? Audi years ago had a problem with their Audi 5000 and it was terrible, almost destroyed the business. And no one would buy the car. And we've had accounting firms, all kinds of firms who lost the trust of the industry because they were lying, cheating, stealing. When you do those kinds of things and it gets out, then people just start to lose faith in you. You have this issue now with Elon Musk. He's going around firing all these people and he's extracting all kinds of contracts for himself out of the government. And he's affecting political contests all over the world, which is not his business. So basically, people are turning around saying, I don't have anything to do with anything he does. So auto sales in Europe are down 47%. It can be some externalities like this. It could be personality related issues. It could be malfeasance, theft, and cheating. It's all, so that's why I said it's integrity, it's character, it's competency. That's what keeps you going. Everything stuff that doesn't fall in those buckets, it's what kills you.
So on the flip side, how do you see businesses that are going like crazy, increase like 200+% a year in sales? Like, how are those businesses different from the ones that are just going to the complete opposite direction?
Again, it's the better mousetrap theory. Somebody has built something that the market wants. Before cell phones came along, it was a princess phone. It's hanging on the wall. But then you get the cell phone, and the first cell phones were these big briefcase cell phones that go in your car and all that stuff. Now you got it so small, it has so much technology, and everybody wants one. All those on the phones, you couldn't find them in a museum. And the same thing is with the evolution of cars. Everybody calls these cars, like, including Tesla, tech companies. I don't buy into that. It's at the end of the day, they're selling you a car. But the valuation of Teslas are in excess of its competition. And that's why, to me, it's like hard to fathom because they're selling cars. But it's a better mousetrap and everybody likes the mousetrap. So they gravitate to it. And whatever it is, it's somebody inventing something that makes their life theoretically easier and they're happier using it. The cost may be high initially, then it come down because as the world adopts that new technology, the price comes down. And if they're in it long enough, they will not be number one. They just won't be. I can't think of it right now. I was thinking of a company that started off in the computer business and isn't here anymore. And they aren't here anymore. Even like BlackBerry. BlackBerry was the phone. Everybody wanted a BlackBerry. But BlackBerry didn't innovate. They just enjoyed being on the top of the mountain, apparently. But they didn't innovate at the same rate that all these other companies, the iPhone came along, and everybody else, Samsung came along and just blew them away. And that's really what it is. Not being able to look over your shoulder and say, oh, there's a herd of people coming after me. How can I catch up with what they're doing? No, by the way, what are they doing? Just asking the really basic question, what are they doing? And what are we not doing? Because they're coming.
You talk about the businesses that do grow are the ones that are innovative, but also are good with the mousetrap.
They're innovative, but they keep their sort of ear to the rail. They know what's going on. They know what's emerging. You always are looking at what's next. Now, what is this? And whatever you make right now, somebody else is going to copy it. They're going to steal it. They're going to do whatever. And then it's no longer the better mousetrap. So what's the new innovation? AI is the newer innovation. And so every phone that's in existence today is going to be trash because they're going to sell you a new phone that does entirely different things. Your ability to talk, converse conversationally like we are with your electronic devices through basically AI is going to be the new standard. The price of getting in, the initial price of entry will be high, but it's got to come down because everybody can't afford it. And it's all about market penetration. The folks who are going to have the really expensive models are going to try to keep theirs expensive, but somebody's going to say, you know, there's a whole mass of people out there who can't afford that. So I'm going to make a cheaper version and deliver to them on that. So that's what it is. It's always being aware, keeping yourself abreast of everything that's new, all of the information that's coming in, reading, studying, going to conferences, doing all the kind of stuff that you need to do to stay immersed in whatever that business that you're involved in.
So I just got a couple more questions for you. What's something that you learned along the way in your journey that you wish you knew when you first started?
I'm not sure I can answer this because I was once asked a similar question. If you could do your career over again, would you do it differently? And it's this hypothetical in a sense. Your question is not a hypothetical. So what do I know now that I wish I knew then? But I don't think I would have known back then what I know now. That's part of the whole journey. You just keep learning. So to suggest that the knowledge I have now, I would have been endowed with that knowledge back then, and therefore it would have changed the trajectory of my life. That would be true if it could be true.
Okay. So let's change the question then. What is some advice that you would give to yourself when you first started your journey?
I think the thing it was intuitive to me to do it. I think I would have said, take more risk, because the thing that was intuitive to me was just believe that you can do anything, like anything. If you believe you can do anything, then you can do anything. Then it's just a process of learning, and you just apply yourself and learn it. So the things that I wanted to learn, I learned, and I always gravitated towards the most difficult thing to do in that space. But I would have taken more risk. Quite honestly, having taken that more risk, I don't know that I would be in a different place, because I'm not dissatisfied in the place that I'm in or the journey that I took. So I don't regret, to maybe phrase it differently, anything about the path that I took. I wouldn't have met my wife if I'd been more aggressive and gone these. I wouldn't have had the kids that I have. So what about all that life experience, which is not just a job, it's a life that I would have traded off to get something else? I don't know what that is, but I don't regret what I have had and still have as a result of the path I chose. You choose the path, you stick to your path.
So what was your biggest hurdle that you had to overcome in your career?
Biggest hurdle? Sometimes it can be your own complacency. You always have to start with yourself. If you don't have introspection to be able to look at yourself and say, that person says, I didn't do a good job. And a lot of people I see, they get negative criticism and they want to blame somebody else. They don't never want to look at themselves. So being able to be critical of yourself introspectively, is it true? Doesn't matter whether the person, let's say, is racist or not. That has nothing to do with it. They still could be very right that I didn't do a good job. So I have to take that advice, that negative response, and say, could I have done better? And the answer is yes. Was there more in the tank? Yes. Did I give it all? No. Okay. It's me. I gave that person the material to say that I wasn't good enough. So I can't be blaming that person for that. I have to take responsibilities for it. So it's things like that. I would have pressed myself harder to just do better. And you're young, you got all kinds of stuff going on. You make all kinds of excuses. Everybody does it. We procrastinate. Everybody does it. So it's just, I always say, just get over yourself. Own the space you're in. Believe that you belong there. Even if you're the only one there, you belong there. And don't shy, don't shrink, don't be embarrassed. Just do the work. And that work ultimately will shine through. Because a lot of people can say a lot of negative things about you, but they can't say you didn't know what you were doing. That's a good thing about knowledge. It's like you can take a whole bunch from me, but you can't take that away from me. And for me, it's not something I would have done differently. It's just something that I like to emphasize. You have to believe in something greater than yourself. And for me, it's my faith, though. And I'm telling you, it's the rock. It's the anchor. And based on that, even if I have big setbacks, I know that I'm properly anchored. And so I'm not worried, because you lose something. I always look at it as, okay, I lost something. God's got something better prepared for me. It's just a transition. That's all it is. And just move on, stay positive. Don't be negative. No matter what the negativity around you, don't accept it.
I just got one more question for you. Dylan, what's one fun fact about yourself that nobody really knows?
If I told you, everybody would know. I'm not going to give you that fun fact. I'll give you another one. I once saved a person from choking on food by giving him the Heimlich in the company cafeteria. Wow. I'd gone to lunch really late. There were very few people there. And I sat down with one other person, and apparently somebody else did the same thing. And when you go to lunch late, you're rushing. They're closing the place down, all there. Yeah. And they had some dish with rice. And I'm talking to the person, but I happen to notice this guy just woofing this food there. And he literally inhaled a spoonful of rice. And he was choking. And I was the only one who could see him, because the other person had their back to him. I just got up, calmly walked over, gave him the Heimlich, and he was better. There's a phone on the wall. I called the emergency services people that came and took care of him. I went back and finished my meal.
Thank you again for coming on today. I really do appreciate you taking the time out of your day to host on the podcast. So thank you.
No, my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me. And it was a really good conversation.
Appreciate you so much. Thank you. I learned so much as well. So I just do want to thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
So before we finish off this episode, I do want to thank every single one of you for all the support that you've shown this past year of my journey. And I really do thank you so much for that. Ways that you can support even more is by going on to the Realistic CEO website and ordering your copy of the Realistic CEO book. See you in the next episode. Peace.